What is up, my friends? How are we? You're very welcome along to Thursday night's late night agenda, fresh off the back of our derby victory over Everton. The league title is, well, one step closer to our grasp. Today, we're going to focus on, the fallout from last night, i.e. that challenge from Tarkowski. We're also going to have a little look ahead to the transfer window and who is reasonable, who is not reasonable, and again, why everybody seems to be priced at about €100 million. So we're going to go through it all tonight. As always, I do appreciate your time. Again, we're going to go through the situation with Mohamed Salah and his contract. Exactly what you would expect are the subjects we're going to be going over tonight. Johnny Sin said, what happened to Mundo Sporto? Please bring it back. Would love to see you do live watch-alongs of Arsenal being humbled. And I'm just going to say humbled, mate, and move on from there. Next week by Real at their own gaff. So it's funny you mentioned that. We are working on something at the minute that isn't exactly Mundo Sporto, and it won't be on YouTube, but we are talking about something. We've been in discussion with somebody for a month or two now about it, so I think I'm going to have good news for you, mate, in the next month or so. We're just working on something in the background at the minute, but appreciate your support, and yeah, I think we've got something that'll make you happy, but you're going to have to stick with us for a while, mate. I know it's very vague, but I think you'll be happy in the end. At least I hope you will, my man. Right. Damn that timing. I only saw the notification that you were going live. Click to see that you were just about to start. Well, there you go. The Wonder Woman. Absolutely bang on time, and we love that. So look, loads for us to get through tonight. We're going to be asking about Hugo EKITIKE and our Liverpool really going all in there. Talking about Diogo Jota staying at the club, by the way, today from James Pearce, I believe it was, of The Athletic. We're going to be talking about Jarell Kwanza. There's been some stories linking him with actually wanting a move away from Liverpool, believe it or not. So we're going to talk about that as well. Gabriel for Arsenal has been ruled out for the remainder of the campaign. Fabrizio Romano broke that news earlier on, so Arsenal fans going to be obviously upset about that one, as they have a league run in and of course a Champions League quarter final to prepare for now without Gabriel. Craig, guess whose birthday boy in 2 days? Well, congratulations, my man. Happy birthday to you. I hope you have a great one. Today, on a personal level, was not a good day for me. Got a very frustrating letter through the door, but I can't really go into detail on it. But best just say the bank account's about to take another hit. God almighty, it's never ending. But look, that's not your problem. That's a whole load of my problem. But we'll push it aside for now and we'll call it tomorrow morning Craig's problem. I'm out of the doghouse. Nice, said the Faceman Network. Nudge wink. Love it. Well played. I permanently base myself in the doghouse, mate. So, yeah, no getting out of it for me. I pretty much live in the doghouse. It's where I'm most comfortable, don't you know? So, right, we're going to talk about Takefusa Kubo a little bit as well tonight, as he continues to be linked with a move to Liverpool. João Pedro's name has come up again, and we're going to talk more about Mohamed Kudus and his release clause that comes into activation. Is that the old tax bill? No. I've already sorted out the old tax bill, Philip. That one's done. We've paid that off. This is another headache, courtesy of the landlord this time, to the tune of about $6,500. But we move on, mate. We move on. We don't want to bore you with these details. No one in my school has April 5th except me. There you go. Well, that's interesting. My birthday is not a very fun birthday, to be honest with you, but again, we'll talk about that another time perhaps. I want to just kick off tonight with something that I've spoken about loads of times, right? So, you know the way Trent Alexander-Arnold looks like he's off to Madrid, and we've seen people in Spain before have the very same thing happen to them that is apparently now about to happen to Carlo Ancelotti. So Transfer News Live via The Guardian posted something today to say the Spanish courts have requested a 4-year and 9-month prison sentence for Carlo Ancelotti. The Italian is suspected of tax fraud. How many people end up owing or being threatened with tax fraud when their time in Spain is coming towards an end? I can think of Mourinho, Ancelotti, Ronaldo, Messi, I think Modric, and I'm probably missing a load. Shakira, I think, was another one. And now we've Carlo Ancelotti. So Trent, maybe when you're doing out the budgets, mate, and working through what you may owe in tax in years to come, just keep an eye on that situation in Spain would be my advice, because yet again, just at the end of their time there, big tax bill comes in, and Carlo Ancelotti, They're looking for 4 years and 9 months, but I'm sure it'll be sorted out for a handful of millions to the exchequer. Craig, here we're going to win the league, said Ian. I believe we are, Eno. I believe we are. It's just a matter of time. So look, the PGMOL have admitted that they made a mistake, or their official made a mistake last night, but ultimately this needs to stop, right? It needs to stop, because it can't just keep happening that they hide behind this clear and obvious nonsense, that when it suits them, clear and obvious is the excuse, and when it doesn't suit them, well, they're talking about thresholds and whatnot. Every single person last night, and it was refreshing to see, every single pundit said that that was a red card. Whether it's Duncan Ferguson, whether it's Gary Neville, whether you've even got Henry Winter going on Sky Sports back pages saying that it was a disgrace that it wasn't upgraded. So fair play to everybody for saying what we were all thinking. That was shocking last night. And once again, we're seeing the PGMOL and their officials make a mockery of the Premier League. And this isn't an anti-Liverpool thing. This is just the standard of officiating being absolutely horrendous, and it again being one of the big talking points of a Merseyside derby rather than the actual football being played and the talent on display. We're here talking about Paul Tierney and the PGMOL official once again being at the centre of more controversy. Nomad said WWE Sheamus was at Anfield last night. Big fan of his. Nice. Well done, Sheamus. I know he's a red. Shane said, I know this isn't a GAA channel, but it's sad down here in Kerry, and for GAA, RIP Miko. Yeah, I seen that earlier on, Shane. Seen a lot of Kildare fans as well on there, and I'm with you, my man. I'm with you. Absolutely a legend in Gaelic football, mate. So I'm with you on that one, Shane. And you always have a place here, mate, to pay your respects to the greats of sport, whether we're a GAA channel or not, my man. I always appreciate you. But bro, what actually happened to Mundo Sport though? I just didn't have... So when we started Mundo Sport, the idea was it just not to be me. There were supposed to be other people involved, but we just didn't have the time and the means to really give it the attention it needed. So again, it's a time thing with me. My focus was on building Anfield Agenda, and I didn't have the ability to focus on other stuff. Now things are clearing up a bit. We should have a way to bring it back at some point in some form, although it won't be under that name. But can't give you more details than that because we're still talking with somebody about it. So, how are we feeling ahead of Sunday as well? Obviously, got the Fulham game coming up at the weekend. Recording the preview for that one to be out on Saturday morning, so keep an eye out for that. I did record my Premier League predictions video. Those predictions are going to be coming out tomorrow morning, actually, so keep an eye out for them dropping. I'm excited about it, but was interested to see Arne Slot kind of speaking about Curtis Jones and his versatility, and I wonder, are we going to see Curtis Jones at right back again at the weekend, or will the manager go for Jarell Kwanza? You have to say, last night, Curtis Jones certainly didn't really put a foot wrong. I thought he put in a very good shift. Luis Diaz, as we spoke about, was incredible last night, fully deserving of all the praise that comes his way. And Diogo Jota took his goal really, really well as well. So, do you know what? Let's kind of kick it off with a conversation around Diogo Jota, if I may. Because there's been a few bits and pieces reporting about Diogo, and I wanted to get your take on it, so bear with me. So this piece here from James Pearce of The Athletic said, much depends on what offers are forthcoming, but the most likely outcome currently is that Darwin Núñez leaves Liverpool this summer and Liverpool bring in somebody to provide greater competition alongside Diogo Jota. Now, it does seem that Arne Slot trusts and backs Diogo. We've seen that from the team selections, and to be fair, last night that manager's faith was repaid. But I wanted to get your thoughts on this one. Do you think it'll just be Darwin Núñez that departs from the attacking line this summer? Or, like me, do you think that we will see a secondary sale? Whether that's Diaz or Jota, I really don't know. Honestly, for me, keeping Diaz around would be my preference over Jota. But if Jota and Diaz both stay and it's just Darwin that's replaced, I've no problem with that either, as long as the club do go out and bring in somebody who, well, is going to be an improvement, at least numerically, on the numbers that Darwin Núñez is putting up. The most likely candidate, of course, looks like Hugo EKITIKE, but his price seems to be changing by the day and going up as well. Latest reports linking him with moves of about €80 million, according to Sport Bill. They say Liverpool, Arsenal and United are very keen on the prospect of signing Hugo EKITIKE, but Frankfurt striker is likely to cost around €80 million, which is about 68 million pound. Again, I just hope whatever the plan is for us, we execute it quickly and we aren't hanging around being dragged through another summer of uncertainty. Sonny, thank you, bro. Hey Craig, I want to say I love the content and streams and I hope you're doing well. Some people just love to hate for some reason. They're just scumbags. You're a legend. Thank you, Sonny. Appreciate you, man. Look, loads of kindness flown in over the past few weeks and it has been very much appreciated, and I do appreciate your kindness as well, sir. Thank you. Could we see Jones with a position move in the future? Yeah, you see, that's what we're all scared of here, Jay Muse, is the old line being trotted out again that Curtis Jones will become the new James Milner, who can be shoehorned into any position and will be used as an excuse for us not to invest in an area of the pitch that, if Trent moves on, let's be honest, we do need to invest in. So, no, not for me. No problem with players being versatile, and you know, it's always good to have some of them in your team. But ultimately, you do want to have experts in every position. So I definitely don't want to be hearing this conversation about Curtis Jones being like maybe a new signing at right back. A new signing at right back would be a new signing at right back. So that's what I expect if Trent moves on. Dave said Diaz's work rate is phenomenal. Oh, last night, man, he was brilliant. He was. And one of the qualms and problems I've had with him, Dave, has always been I think he tends to drift inside too much. But last night I felt he mixed up his variation of attacks. I have one stat from last night that I took from Match of the Day, and it absolutely shocked me. Did you know that Liverpool last night put in fucking, was it 40? 30 crosses. 30 crosses, and only 4 of them reached the Liverpool shirt. And that, my friends, is something that we have to work on. Because we talked about these aimless balls being put into the box or being pumped forward. But to see it laid out by Mika Richards on Match of the Day with those numbers of 30 crosses, 4 of them reaching a Liverpool player, that's wasting good build-up position, and that's wasting opportunities, and we need to find a way to be a bit more fruitful in the final third. We can't be having that kind of success rate, and that's just ones that reached a Liverpool shirt, by the way. So these are crosses, corner kicks, free kicks, anything basically where the ball's put into the box 30 times last night, and only 4 of them reaching a Liverpool player. We need to work on that. Okay, I'm very confused by that one. Shouldn't there have been 3 reds yesterday for Everton? Tarkowski, Pickford and Beto. So the Pickford stuff bugs me, Muckrab, because if he didn't get a yellow card last night for kicking Darwin Núñez because the whistle had already gone, then technically that could mean that once the whistle goes, Darwin could go up and headbutt Jordan Pickford or punch him or kick him. It was weird. And it was weird that Darwin was the only one that was booked. Now, look, do I have a problem with why Darwin was booked? Actually, no, I don't. I appreciated Darwin's shithousery, but I understood why he was booked, because he was off the pitch and he rolled himself back on. But once again, we've seen Pickford now get away with a lazy, clumsy kick out at a Liverpool player, and there's no punishment for it. Núñez could have been injured, like Van Dijk was previously, and look, Pickford just... We need to just admit this. He's a shithouse when we play them. And I don't believe in accidents. I don't believe in coincidence. Well, I do believe in accidents. That's not... I don't believe in coincidences. And Pickford, again, just kicking out. It's shocking. Beto was right on the line as well. He was playing right on the edge. But for me, the Tarkowski one's just inexcusable. And the fact now that there's no... retrospective action or anything, it just feels like they're taking the piss. That's it. And I was refreshed to see so many people come out in support of the fact that should have been a red last night. And is it a shock to us Liverpool fans that Paul Tierney is there? No. I think somebody in the Athletics comment section quoted a piece of work from Paul Tompkins, of the Tompkins Times, and he said something like, with Paul Tierney on VAR, he's never changed the decision in Liverpool's favour. I never upgraded or overruled a decision in Liverpool's favour, ever, on VAR. And I know Paul Tompkins has done some really good work around just the raw numbers involved around the decisions when Paul Tierney's involved in our games. And yet again, last night, big incident, very clear. And did Tierney do his job? No, quick 10-second check and it was passed off. Not good enough. And it needs to be addressed. And addressed properly. You know, football fans deserve better than this. The Premier League's undermining its own product and they need to sort it out. The PGMOL cannot continuously just get away with coming out with these, oh, sorry, not good enough. Managers don't get to say, oh, sorry, when you're handing out 3-game bans for them on the touchline or record fines to them. Referees do have a difficult job. Nobody's trying to say otherwise. But Tierney's job last night was not difficult. That was a cut and dry situation. And at best, he bottled it. And I'm being kind by saying at best. Wasting a lot of unnecessary energy, said in Green Street. Joshua said it's exactly what he did when Van Dijk was offside, but still no red. You're streaming on my birthday. I don't know, mate. Your birthday is very much at the back of my mind right now. Surprisingly, I'm in the middle of a stream with loads of people in it, and you keep thinking I can talk to you directly, CHD Warrior, mate. I'm doing my best. I don't really care about what dreams you were having about me eating broccoli or being broccoli on a pitch either, in all honesty, mate. If you want to talk footy, something like that, let's get into it. But it's distracting me a little bit, bro. I don't know when your birthday is. I think you said 2 days away. Then Saturday. No, actually I won't be. So there you go. Hope that one answers it, but I do hope you have a wonderful birthday. Chris said, how are you? I hope Diogo stays, but he needs to kick on after last night. I rate him, but don't want to see him go. Look, I like Diogo Jota as well, but I'm not convinced by him this season at all. Great goal last night, very Diogo Jota-esque, if I may say. But it'll be interesting to see what we do in this summer. And here she is, right on fucking schedule, as I start streaming, in the door to disrupt the stream and distract me, even though every day I ask her not to do it. Here she is, yet again, once again in there to disrupt the stream. Thanks for that, Sabrina. Unless she's gone around banging doors. Welcome to my life, ladies and gents, where my business apparently isn't important, but heaven forbid I interrupt anything in her life. Who's the Como winger we're linked with? No problem, my man. 1 second. 1 second. Como. 1 sec. There he is. Right, so this piece here from Caught Offside said that Manchester United, Liverpool and Newcastle are all showing interest in signing Como's 19-year-old winger, Assane Diao. I have to say, lads, I know nothing about this guy. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. It just feels like another random name thrown in there to try and, I guess, highlight interest in a player. But yeah, there you go. Como, 19-year-old winger, Assane Diao. Let me know if you know anything about him, because I certainly don't. But there you go. That's the name anyway. I know Como were kind of an interesting prospect at the minute, up in Serie A with Fabregas as the coach and in a very beautiful part of the world to play football. But yeah, I gotta say, for me, I just don't want to sign in players from Serie A, really. It usually doesn't end well in the Premier League, so I would pass. But then again, I would say that because I don't know anything about the kid. Philip said the last gel we signed wasn't exactly a roaring success. What have we got? Astro Cop. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. You're very kind. Yeah. There's not only 125 likes, Paul. There's 197 likes, mate. You may need to refresh. But thankfully, there is 198 now. So well in, everyone. And thank you, Astro Cop, as well, for being with us as a member for 5 months. Thoughts on Yildiz and Conceição? I don't see Juventus moving on Yildiz, in all honesty. I don't think... Yeah, I can't see that happen. I can't see us... So, here's my honest answer to all of these. Any player that starts to get bigged up for big transfer fees, I'm starting to just, again, get into the mindset of, well, Liverpool aren't going to sign them because our owners are cheap. And I'm already starting to feel that way about the summer window. I'm already starting to feel a little bit frustrated by it, and it hasn't even started, because all the players that were being linked with, all of a sudden their prices seem to be going up every day. And the likes of Yildiz, well, they are players that Liverpool should be looking at, and it's a really good name you've thrown up. We just know that with our owners, that's just not us, and it pisses me off to say that. But we will be shopping in the 30 to 40 million euro bracket for most of our business, and then whatever we get for Darwin, we might throw a few quid on for a striker. That's kind of the feeling I have going into this summer. Yeah, I'm just really pessimistic about what to expect. But it's a good shout though. I do like the names you've mentioned there. But these owners, they're wringing out lots of enjoyment from watching the Reds. Owners are stingy, absolutely. 1 second. So, let's talk João Pedro, right? Another name. There's 2 names actually here that TalkSport have linked Liverpool to. One of them being João Pedro, one of them being Carlos Baleba. And you'll never guess what the price is for both of them. Yep, 100 million. You're right. Of course, I didn't even need to say it, did I? We just heard the words Brighton, a player, and automatically it's going to be 100 million unless there's a release clause in there. And this piece here said Liverpool are interested in signing João Pedro, and Chelsea want to bring in Carlos Baleba. Both players are valued by Brighton at £100 million. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is no world that exists that João Pedro is anywhere close to a £100 million footballer. Absolutely none. So either we need to start being realistic in targets and moving earlier to get them, or our owners need to start understanding that the transfer world has moved, and when you delay this long and leave it to the point where you're looking at players like that are already in Premier League clubs, well, you're going to have to pay a pretty penny for them. And to be honest, I wouldn't be a buyer for him even at 60 million. I just think not worth it for me. Morad and Jonesy Lad said 1-0 Chelsea. In that one, there you go. In the race for the Champions League spots is becoming very, very interesting. So yeah, what are we saying on João Pedro? Would you be interested? And if so, what would be your price point? Brighton realised their mistake with bio clauses after Maka. Yeah, probably, Dave, probably. And I'm very grateful we got him in, but they got 115 million for Caicedo. And now they're looking again for more 100 million players. They're not worth 100 million quid. Baleba's an interesting player and somebody who I'd like to have seen us look at that. But again, they're taking the piss with the valuations. What have any of these lads done to deserve to be 100 million pound players? Nothing. Nowhere near it. So the world's losing its mind, the football world. They're losing their run of themselves with these valuations. Did Mack ensure that Brighton get money out of his transfer? He did. He signed a new deal, and that deal had the release clause in it that meant that Brighton were excuse me, going to get a decent fee when he moved on. So let's move to speak about David Ornstein talking about Mo Kudus, another player that lots of people would have in their wish list perhaps for the summer transfer window. Again, this piece here said it'll be interesting to see what happens with Mo Kudus. His deal does contain a release clause. The release clause is only active for the first 10 days of July and is valued at £80 million for European clubs, 85 million for Premier League clubs, and 120 million for Saudi teams. So if you want to buy Mohamed Kudus, pay the release clause. You have 10 days to do it in July, and you're going to have to pony up 85 million if you're a Premier League club for a player that they got for, I would imagine, substantially less than that. So again, this is why I don't think Liverpool Football Club, maybe outside of Kirkes, are going to be doing any Premier League shopping. I just don't see it because the numbers being quoted here are crazy. So for me, I think you're going to see Liverpool this summer looking to Germany, looking to the Netherlands, looking to European markets to get that value. So I think we can start writing off players that are already in the Premier League, maybe outside of Kirkes. The Huijsen situation, I'll move on to speak about later on tonight because I've got more information coming to me on that. So I'm going to hopefully have that before the late night video. But for me, I'm of the mindset not to be looking in the Premier League for our business. Dave said it's a seller's market for strikers with so many teams looking for one. Yeah, it's a really good point. It is. It's a good point. Now, there are some strikers that do have clauses. So, for instance, Cunha, there's a release clause in there. We know what that is. We know Sesko has a release clause in his Leipzig deal. We know, who else are we talking about? Well, EKITIKE, I don't know if he has a release clause, but there's certainly a number being spoken about there as one they'll do business at, and I swear that number's gone up about 10 or 15 million over the last week. David said Kudus has been shocking this season. I've never seen an £85 million player in Kudus. He's decent, but I've watched them a lot of the time strolling around the pitch, and sometimes he has these flashes and moments of brilliance that you're kind of taken aback and just wow. And other times he just frustrates me to watch. So again, I don't think that's an area where we'll be shopping. So for me going into this transfer window, I'm more trying to figure out who we can rule out and then try to the process of elimination to see who maybe we are going to move for. There is no poll, mate, so I don't know why you're refreshing to be part of a poll when nobody mentioned that there was a poll, Ian. Haven't put one up yet, bro. A. Michael said, Craig, I hope you're well, mate. I think EKITIKE would be good signing for us. Yeah, look, if I'm predicting our window, I'm going to have a guess, something like this. Kirkes, unsure on centre-back. I'm actually not really expecting a midfielder signing at this moment in time, unless Elliott gets sold. And EKITIKE up top. And I'm not really expecting these spoofers to do much more than that. Despite the fact that, well, clearly Chiesa has to go. And he has to, let's be honest about this. Federico Chiesa has to go. Not because you don't like him, not because I don't like him, because it's a waste of a goddamn place on the bench and £7 million a year. So that's the first poll I'm going to ask you tonight, because put your own desires aside. It's £7 million a year being wasted, plus the transfer fee. So I'm going to ask you, should we sell him this summer because Arno won't play him? So I'm going to word it, should we sell Chiesa in the summer as Slot refuses to use him? I think that's fair enough. So we'll go with that one. Vote away on it and see what you think. Why don't we agree deal with clubs for players now before they bump up in the price? It's the same difference. At this point, you're basically in the summer anyway. So what you should be doing is get these players Mukarab. By the way, this is probably a good reason to look at the feeder club model of Malaga, right? So we're all sitting here as Liverpool fans thinking, Well, what's the real benefit to us day to day if FSG go out and buy a feeder club or start a multi-club model? Well, herein lies the very good reason. If Liverpool have a club like Malaga, let's say, as a sister club, and we can bring in these players earlier doors from the likes of South America or the Eredivisie or Bundesliga and put them in this club, let them show whether they're good enough or not, and then at least we can come in and yes, you'd still have to pay decent value for them, but you wouldn't be held over a barrel. And this is the upside of that. So these players that are coming into the likes of a Brighton or going to Benfica and showing their stuff, if we can get them before that and let them show their stuff at a sister club, well, then you can see the upside of the multi-club model. And also, it would be a great way to move loan players that you want to progress through again and give them an opportunity to develop under technically your own guidance as well. Hart says no, Head says yes. I hope Chiesa can prove himself this law. I just don't think that he's going to get the chance, George. Like, last night I think was another huge indicator that he could have played him. And I mean, even bring him off the bench when he brought Darwin on. But he didn't, yet again. Yet again last night, we looked at the end of the match to see Harvey Elliott and Chiesa sitting on the bench. And no matter what you say or I say or how we feel, it is what it is. And if Arne Slot is going to continue in the path of not utilising him, then the club need to make a big decision and sell him. Because 7 million quid a year is 7 million quid a year in wages, whatever way you look at it. And it is a squad place, it is an overseas squad place, and it is a transfer fee that the club need to utilise in another area. So would I keep Chiesa? Absolutely. Would you guys in the chat keep him? I would edge yes. Most of you probably would. But the big decision here has to be Arne's, and for maybe a whole host of reasons, Arne's just not utilising him. It just feels from the outside like he had him forced upon him and he's trying to prove a point. Now, of course, I could be way off with that, but I wouldn't say I'm the only person that thinks that way. That this was a Hughes or Edwards or somebody else's signing, and Arne, having had a very successful season, has changed his stance and gone, nah, he's not a player for me. I want to build my team, and I'm going to put my trust in my players, and if I fail, then I fail. But if I succeed, I want to succeed with the players that I have faith in. That's the way I see the situation. Would you sell Diaz? Still unsure on it personally. Do you know what? No, I wouldn't. He's 2 years to go, so you risk him walking at 30 for free. But the calculation here, because of his lower wages, I think should be, what is Luis Diaz worth to us over the next 2 years in wages versus what we might get from in a transfer fee? I'd like to give him an extension. So if in an ideal world, I'd say sell Jota, sell Darwin, keep Diaz, give him a 1 year extension, give him a good bump in wages to move him past the 100 grand a week mark anyway, and buy yourself another year at the same time in his contract. That's what I'd do. Because look, right now, we've got really good options on the left-hand side. In Cody Gakpo and Luis Diaz, that's brilliant. And they're our players. They're already at the club. So, for me, we can improve through the centre. On the left, I don't think we need to improve. We have two brilliant players here. Keep them. And I would say give something like 120 grand a week to Diaz. Maybe a bit more. Maybe give him Chiesa's wages. So 140 grand a week. A 1 year extension. And keep him at the club. And put her, if they want, throw a realistic buy-in clause in there. Because he's still getting older anyway. So if you have a buyout clause in there and it's triggered next summer, well, if somebody comes in and pays even 40 million, 50 million quid, so be it. But we need to be proactive again. And this is what happens when we allow the contracts to run down. We're in the position of, well, are we going to see Diaz walk out the door for free in 2 years? Or are the club forced to sell him this summer? And if they're forced to sell him this summer, it's because they forced themselves to sell him this summer by stalling on the contract negotiations. Sometimes I struggle to figure out where the sense is in some of the decisions the club have made. What other Premier League teams have sister clubs? Way more than you'd probably think. So you've got Leeds now, kind of part of the Red Bull setup a bit. You've got Chelsea, who have at least one, probably actually two clubs I'm aware of that they have affiliations with. Manchester City have a whole host of them. Not sure on Aston Villa, to be honest, but there's I would imagine 5 or 6 Premier League clubs whose owners have multiple clubs that they own. Genuinely baffling how we've had one successful window since 1819 FSGO. Mate, you know my take on FSG. I'm fed up to the teeth talking about what we could do as a club, what might be possible. I'm fed up dreaming the dream ahead of every transfer window, trying to feel optimistic. I'm worn down as a fan, celebrating a league title win by having the absolute anxiety of the contract situations hanging over us all season. It's draining. It's draining, and you don't even feel like you can enjoy what's in front of you because you're always fearful about what's around the corner. Rather than a club building towards success, we got the success, let it slip, have got it back this season, and do I believe that they're going to go out and do what needs to be done? No, I never do, because they're cheap. Arsenal will go out this summer, and there's links to them with Nico Williams again. They'll bring in a striker. They're probably going to bring in Zubamendi. But, we'll be given the old, well, we tried, we monitored the shit out of them, but they wanted real money, and we don't spend real money. Zaki said, same Craig, last summer killed my love for the club in the transfer window. This whole season has been so surreal. That's the next poll I'm going to ask, actually. I want to ask people if the contract situation is taken away from your enjoyment of this season, because I've had a mixed review about this. I speak to Liverpool fans. Some of them feel like they can compartmentalise it and block it out. Others, like myself, feel like the season's been draining because of the contract situation. And it all comes down to one thing again. Cheapness. That's it. Cheapness. All is good. Enjoy the end of the season, then panic next. I can't, Paul. I can't do that, mate. I'm somebody who doesn't deal well in life with uncertainty. So I want things boxed off where possible. And imagine being here now. Imagine if I told you in August that we'd be sitting here on the 3rd of April as a channel, as a community, discussing whether Mohamed Salah, Trent and Virgil are going to stay at the club, and that we still don't have concrete answers from the club on that in the month before the season ends. I don't think any of us would have thought that we'd be in this situation. I think we all would have believed we'd have had a resolution one way or the other by now, but we're still in the realms of uncertainty. Off-White said, hey Craig, hope you well. Is the Salah stuff true? Because apparently they're close to a deal. So, I've been reading the same stuff you're reading. I don't have any insight on this that you don't have, but like you, I'm very optimistic that we seem to be edging in the right direction. So the filming stuff, as we knew, was nothing to do with the contract situation or anything, but there does seem to be a lot of optimism now over the last couple of days. And the reason that I look at it favourably is it's not just coming from one area. So, we've got the Egyptian stuff, and you think, all right, well, that might be somebody trying to help Mo out or push the situation along. But then you see stuff in Germany, and you see stuff in the English media, and they all must be getting some kind of indicator here. So, yeah, I feel optimistic on it, but I wouldn't certainly say 100% yet. But definitely feel decent about it. Craig, I've boxed off some special sweeties for you. My boy, my man Dave. There'll be an extra kiss on the head allowed, Dave, this time. And I'll even towel it down, mate, so it's not salty beforehand. Right, let's talk about Takefusa Kubo for a little bit. Because Team Talk have said Liverpool have been in contact with the representatives of Takefusa Kubo and could make a move this summer if Real Sociedad fail to qualify for Europe. When I tune in to try to watch some of Sociedad, I would say it's probably been 50-50 if he even starts when I watch Sociedad. Now, maybe I'm being unlucky, maybe I'm tuning in when he's coming back from injuries or whatever, but it definitely doesn't feel to me like he's shown enough at Sociedad to justify a move to Liverpool for the money they'd ask. But he is a long-held name that comes up in circles when we talk about Liverpool forward business. Paro said, imagine the scenes, Craig, if we sign both, offer Diaz and Canade new contracts and get 4 or 5 new players. Yeah, it'd be class. Like, if we woke up and found out that Virgil and Mo were done, Ibu's getting a new deal, the club want to keep Lucho, great. It certainly lifts a lot of the anxiety about certain parts, and then you can go out and cherry pick the 4 or 5 good signings that we need. Alright, where are we at with this? So, right, let's keep voting. We're going to get 500 votes on the Chiesa question, and then we'll move on to ask about the contract situation and how it's impacting your view of the season. So if you haven't voted, please do. Right, let's keep cracking. Nico Williams, I mentioned him a few moments ago. This report from David Ornstein said, it seems Arsenal will try again for Nico Williams, and I doubt they'll be alone. The likes of Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Chelsea and Liverpool are among the clubs who have considered and or pursued him. This should be a no-brainer. If you're in need of an attacker of any scope, his name should be near the top of your list, in my opinion. He's an incredible talent. I know it'll be difficult to get him out of Bilbao. I know he's on a good wage there. I think about €250,000 a week, something like that. But he's a brilliant player. And I guess those high wages could be a barrier because they don't tend to spend on transfer fees, Bilbao. They bring them through and then they put them on good money, and that's how they retain a lot of their good players. But Nico Williams, for me, I'd be all over if we needed an attacking option. Nico wants Barca, I believe. Yes, but Barca are up shit creekly. Like they're still having issues about registering players again. They've tried to pull the trick of spending or selling 100 million quid's worth of VIP seats to the new camp, but they still can't even sort that mess out. So I don't see how they're going to start having the money here to come out and drop a load of dough. It'll be a one in, one out scenario, but it looks a bit there. So this is why you should try to capitalise on that uncertainty of Barcelona's finances, in my opinion. Spurs 1-1. Do they equalise? Oh, wow. Interesting. Did they pull that one back? Who scored for Spurs? Muckrap said, Craig, seems the haters and trolls have migrated to your normal news videos, complaining that you're reporting the news. I don't care, to be honest. And I don't mean that at you, bro. Sorry. I mean, I let them. Do you know? There's not much I can do about it. And look, to some extent, I get it. You know, they probably look at it and think that I think all these stories are true and that we're nailed on to sign every one of them. So it's either people who just don't like me and want to undermine me anyway, people who've misinterpreted the idea of what we do on the show. But either way, look, it's their prerogative to do it, and it's my prerogative not to read a lot of it. So that's why I've gone for the live streams the way they are. Occasionally, I scroll through some of the pre-record stuff just to acknowledge some of the posters, and I do ask people for their opinion. But I know a bullshit post when I see one, and I know that there are people who just go out of their way to undermine me or others, and you know, leave them to it. If they're happy being in that miserable existence, man, not much I can do about it. I'm not gonna take time out of my day to go through and start blocking them. Let them at it. But I appreciate you looking out for me. I do. David said, I'm not a big fan of Nico, runs the ball out of play a lot. Possible red card. Ooh, hello, what's happening here in that game? Yeah, Sanchez is terrible in goals, Aki. You're right on that one, man. Never been a fan of his as a keeper. If I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be praying that they sign Nico Williams from Liverpool, in all honesty. Right, let's talk about... One sec. Scrolling through my news. Let's talk about... Right, let's talk about midfielders for a minute. David Ornstein on midfield signings for Liverpool said there doesn't seem to be... midfield doesn't seem to be a department at the top of their priority list, and if that's the case, you can understand why. I can't, David. I very much can't. I respect David Ornstein greatly as a journalist, but I disagree with this narrative that Liverpool don't need to look at the midfield situation. If the answer was because of Stefan Bajcetic, like I've said, I get it, but that's not the answer. What he goes on to say is Zubimendi was viewed as a market opportunity. When Liverpool's pursuit didn't come to fruition, they decided against pivoting to another target. It was he who they wanted. The call appears to have been vindicated with Gravenberch's outstanding season, Endo's contributions, McAllister's consistency, and Jones shining when called upon. All of that's irrelevant because Endo doesn't start matches because the manager doesn't trust them. McAllister doesn't play in the same position as Gravenberch, nor does Jones. So what we really have at Liverpool is 4 midfielders and the manager will play 3 of them. I'm not wrong. You've got Jones, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, McAllister. End of conversation. So all this other talk is just bullshit. And look, yes, maybe Gravenberch is the guy, but we still need an understudy to the guy. We still need somebody to compete and rotate with Gravenberch, or else we're going to be one injury from Gravenberch away from another season falling apart. And lessons need to be learned here. It's like these journalists sometimes do FSG's bullshit for them. We need another midfielder. We were lucky this season that Gravenberch has been able to play through. And even at that, we're still talking about him being overplayed. So this narrative needs to change to me. We need a midfielder unless Arne comes out and specifically says Stefan Bajcetic is going to be Gravenberch's understudy in that sound. But then we'll look at Elliott's situation. Mukarab said Ryan's been dead in his feet for the last few weeks. Jamie said looks like somebody's wrote that for Ornstein. You're forgetting Szoboszlai. Yes, sorry, mate. What I meant was we've got Szoboszlai, McAllister, Jones. All of them can play in the 8, as I'd call it. But when you come in to talk about Gravenberch's position, there's only him and Endo. They're the only ones at the club. And when we stop having Gravenberch, and by the way, thank you for reminding me about Dom. He had slipped my mind. But either way, I do feel like we don't have another Gravenberch alternative. So let's say Ryan got injured this season. What we're going to end up doing in that situation is shoehorning McAllister into the 6 and playing Jones and Szoboszlai together. And McAllister is so talented that, yeah, he'll do a job for you. But again, we're talking about having experts here in a certain position. And Endo hasn't been given a starting berth at any point other than throwaway cup games where we're hoping for the best. Ian Greenstreet said we still need a replacement for Matip. Yes, we do. I hope Huijsen is that guy. But actually, while we're speaking about replacements, let's talk about Kwanza actually for a minute, because Football Insider it's a big story this if it's true, but I'd say take it with a pinch of salt. This piece from Football Insider said Jarell Kwanza would be keen on a move to Newcastle from Liverpool in search of regular minutes. So, there's been lots of talk that Newcastle are interested in Kwanza, going back as far as last summer with the Anthony Gordon situation. And it doesn't seem to be going away. Now, Liverpool don't look like they're in the market to sell Kwanza. But I want to know what you guys think about it. Like, I'd sell him if it meant we could get Huijsen. I would. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I would. If we could sell him, get similar money, and go out and buy Huijsen with it, I'd do that. But I'd rather keep Kwanza, sell Gomez, because, let's be honest, again, Joe's never going to nail down a regular starting place under Arne. He's another one of these players we're speaking about that can be utilised in 3 or 4 positions, which in itself is a good attribute. But we need 4 top quality centre halves. If you got Virgil, and we know that his time at Liverpool will be dwindling down over a few years, then it gives you a chance to build with Kanade, Kwanza and Huijsen for the future. That's my take on it anyway. Zaki said, if we sell Jarrell/Joe, we cannot not sign a centre-back. I agree, my friend. Very much so. Right, so we asked, should we sell Chiesa in the summer as Slot refuses to use him? 62% say yes, 38% says no. And to the 38% who said no, I would imagine some of that 38% is because you like him. And that was never the question here. The question was, Arne isn't going to play him. It's a huge chunk of money and a squad place sitting there every week. And it's used as an excuse as to why we can't get another attacker in. But we're hamstringing ourselves because he doesn't want him here. He hasn't played him, won't give him minutes, doesn't trust him to come on and change a game. So for me, absolutely no way should this continue. Look at our bench and ask yourself, if Arne doesn't trust players on there, why should we keep them? We need to move them on, free up money, free up wages, and start building the squad that Arne wants. Whether we all agree with it or not, he needs to be able to look to his squad and realise he's got 23 players that he can trust. Or else the whole thing is just an exercise in moving money around. And every penny has to count, remember? What was the next question? Right, I'm going to ask this one. One sec. What's the right word I want to use here? So I'm going to ask you, has the contract situation dampened your enjoyment of the season? I think that's, again, the fairest way I can probably word that one. So yeah, has it taken away from some of the enjoyment you've had this season? Because let's be honest, it's been an enjoyable season. Arne coming in to win the Premier League, that is very much something that we should be enjoying. So this piece coming out of Transfer News Live, and thank you Mark for sending this on to me, said that Liverpool winger Federico Chiesa has been contacted by Roma about a potential loan next season. Now, why should we loan him out? So, look, Italian clubs are geniuses at doing this. They're masters at coming into the Premier League and taking players that the Premier League clubs have bought that haven't worked out for one reason or another and loaning them to death and letting their contracts run down and get older. But if you're Liverpool, loaning them out would be idiotic. Absolutely stupid. How does that benefit us in the here and now? It wouldn't. It would get the wages off the book. But yeah, you shouldn't find it too hard to find a buyer for Chiesa above what we paid for him anyway. So the idea of loaning him to an Italian club, to me, would almost be just throwing more money away. Just sell him or play him. It has to be one or the other. Like, it's not like this is a 19-year-old kid that's breaking through. He's an established Italian international, European Championship winner. Do you see any fringe players going on loan next season? Oh, defo. Yeah. It's just a matter of who. So, some of the ones you've mentioned, like Neoni, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Young Rio, is he going to be kept around the first team or will he get a loan? Jayden Danz, of course, another good show. Actually, on loan players, I have a bit of an update for you on one of our loan players. 1 second. So, Owen Beck is ruled out for the rest of the season, unfortunately, after picking up a hamstring injury with Blackburn, and he will return to Liverpool to continue his recovery. So, again, unfortunately, that's a loan move that at the end of the season there is going to see Owen Beck ruled out. So, another player there, unfortunately, that has found a bit of a struggle there on loan, although he's done well at Blackburn, but unfortunately there with the loan or the injury. We've seen obviously Tyler Morton pick up an injury as well. He's somebody this summer that I think the club should make a big decision on. You know, McConnell maybe has a bit more time on the side, but Tyler Morton, the club I think need to either say, yeah, he's going to be part of the midfield and Arne trusts him, or sell him, because how many more loans does the kid need? Nessie said, we play in 4 competitions, surely there's game time for Chiesa. Absolutely. But I think this week made so much clear to me, Nessie, because we'd seen the cup final where Jota and Darwin weren't great, and Chiesa came on, Jota wasn't great, Chiesa came on and scored. And then you're thinking, surely he plays after the international break, when Arne would have had loads of time to work with him, talk with him, prepare him, coach him, and then doesn't get a minute on the pitch. It just astounds me as to who bought him and why. Pyro said, for me, Craig, I loan out players like Dans, Neoni, Rio, etc. and sell all the ones like Bendo, Cade Gordon, Tyler Morton. Yeah, there would probably be 5 fringe players that I'd sell as well. Cade Gordon's one of them. Tyler Morton's another one of them. Ben Doak, yeah, if the club have made that decision, then yes, sell Ben Doak this summer. And I've no problem selling him to Everton either, by the way, if he wants to go there. Nat Phillips' contract's going to be up. He's going to move on. Just trying to think of other... Owen Beck we've spoken about. You're going to make a decision there. Luke Chambers, a decision on that one. I think you could probably 6 or 7 fringe players. Move them on. Would you start McConnell against West Ham this season? Our overall score is 10-1 against them, and I want to see them. Look, I like James McConnell. I think he's a really good talent, and I'm glad that he was kept around after Tyler Morton had his, I think, shoulder injury, if my memory's right. So it seems like Arne Slot rates him as well. So yeah, it's a real interesting one. It's such a difficult decision for a coach to decide not to make a signing to back a youth player, because it requires some patience. And with the hectic nature of modern football and the Premier League being so competitive, you don't really have that wiggle room. So it's a difficult one for the manager. You've got to be really convinced in a player. And I would say McConnell is right on the fringe there. A brilliant young player. I really like him. You can see the football brain working when he's on the pitch. So yeah, I'd keep him around over Morton anyway, personally. Reece Williams is another one, Muckarab, yep. Jonesy lad said, I want to see Neoni develop big talent. He's brilliant. Look, there is some great talent at our disposal. And I hope, if we are going to make some bold decisions, that it's to back some of this talent. Because unless we see so many young players coming through with other clubs and then going for huge money, but that's because the managers or the clubs, either through a culture of necessity or just backing young players, give them these opportunities to shine. And if you can find the right young players to have that kind of fearlessness of youth, give them a shot. And Trey Morris Neoni is an outstanding footballer. Yeah, can't wait to see his development. Lewis Kumas is another exciting one. And Jaden Dans as well. They're all players, along with young Rio, that I think have a great chance to be proper first teamers at Liverpool. What's disabled access like at your gig in Liverpool? And I say this sincerely, with experience, very good. The venue is fully wheelchair accessible. We via ramps to each theatre, access with wheelchair bays in there. It is a brilliant ground, built from the ground up to make sure that everything's accessible. I wouldn't recommend it to you, mate, if I didn't think it was. But we've had people with wheelchair that need a wheelchair access at the shows, and every one of them have been catered for. So I think you'll be all right. But if you do need any more assistance or anything, let us know. We're always happy to try and liaise with the venues if you've any concerns. Ninmoy, see, I'm learning, bro, said, we sell Doak, it's fine, but if he gets good and we try to buy him back for 50-60 mil, I'm going to lose it. It seems like the decision, Ninmoy, on him was made early, and that he was going to be brought in to be prepared to flog. And I've never understood it, because I really like him. And I like the fact that he's not scared, gets his head down, has a run at people, is full of talent, has that lovely low trajectory and change of direction and balance. But it doesn't look like the club have, from my understanding, any interest in keeping him. So if that's the case, then time to sell. Doak part exchange for Branthwaite O'Brien. Yes, please, Tanya. Yes, please. I'd be all over Jared Branthwaite. Absolutely all over him. I think he's an outstanding defender. I'd love him. I fear he ends up somewhere like United in the long run, but I'd love him at Liverpool. Mukarab said, it disappoints me if we've really treated Doak like that. Oh, you've taken your message away. I was just reading it out, but no problem. Craig Adams. I didn't bring this one up yet, mate. Sorry. Totally agree. Getting deja vu about transfers. Yeah, it's like clockwork, isn't it? Build your hopes up, tickle your nuts a little bit, then leave you with blue balls when the transfer window opens up and excuses come out about people being too expensive, asking for too much wages, selling clubs being too difficult to deal with. All the same things that we get. But it won't work this summer. And it won't work this summer, Craig, because they've told us that they've had a year to plan. So either we find out that they're not very good at their jobs, or they have a plan, they execute it, and we praise it. So let's wait and see. I'm pretty sure Branthwaite is a United fan. He may be, but United are shit. You know, so if you're looking at it right now and you want to go and win stuff and you want to progress in your career, well, Liverpool's a far better bet at this moment in time than United. And I can't wait. Somebody said, can't wait to see number 20 at Old Trafford or sing number 20 at Old Trafford. Yes, it's going to be delicious. And I wasn't expecting that this would be the season we get that 20th league title, but God, very grateful that we are. Paro said, I was over the moon with the Chiesa signing, Craig, and it's such a shame we've worked him back to full fitness with no intention of Arna playing him. I think, I can only assume, mate, that this is him making a stand. The manager and saying, I didn't ask for him. He's not my player. I can't think of any other reason as to why he's not getting a chance. It feels like Arna is digging his heels in to show, if we're going to make signings, they're going to be my players or I won't play them. And I kind of respect it to some extent, but it still makes you question why was he brought in the first place. Muckrab said, rephrase it. It disappoints me. We really have had the idea to cultivate Doak into a player with no interest in playing him and only wanted to sell. Yep, and honestly, mate, 2 journalists gave me this situation, I think last summer when I was talking about Doak. Zaki said, Son so close for 1-1. So I take it then that the Spurs goal was ruled out eventually. The one that Sarr scored must have been ruled out. Right, what else have we got? We spoke about this, but Fabrizio Romano said, breaking, Gabriel will be out until the end of the season. He requires surgery on his hamstring injury and will be out until the start of next season. So Arsenal without one of their big centre-back pairing there for the games against Real Madrid, as well as, of course, for the remaining league games. So another finger on the Premier League trophy for us. Certainly, look, it's not good to see a player get injured ever, but you know, do you know what I've not heard mentioned actually? Lots of talk about Arsenal's injuries this season in the media, and lots of talk about them being unlucky, but not much talked about why they might get injured. And I'd like to see a bit more of that, because Arne Slot has managed their injuries, I think, because of great work at Ruben Peters and trying, where possible, to measure minutes. I don't see that with Arteta. Arteta very much seems to be keep playing them, and then they get an injury, and then I feel like he rushes them back at times as well. So I'd like to see some acknowledgement that yes, Arsenal have had injuries this season, but look at the manager as to maybe why. Another excuse for Lego Head, said Madeni. Baleba would be great, but he's too expensive, said Haris. Yeah, I think they paid, I want to say 26 or 28 million, something like that, for Baleba when they brought him in from France. But now looking at 100 million. I mean, what has he done to jump up in that valuation to 100 million? He's a very good player, but he hasn't improved 70 million in my eyes. Not anywhere near that at Brighton. VAR seems to be working in the Chelsea Spurs game. Yeah, it must be nice. You know, not having Paul Tierney there, not thinking it meets the threshold after a 10-second review, not even asking the ref to have a look. Yeah. I can't wait to hear this one on mic'd up, but it won't happen. Because mic'd up, they only show you the ones that want to give themselves a big pat on the back and say, what a fucking great job. Oh, what a great job all the referees did there. And Michael Owen on mic'd up just, you know, not having the courage to actually ask difficult questions. That whole show is a fucking piss take. What's the point of it? You know, ask the real questions. How is he getting away with this? How is Tierney always at the scene of the crime? What is Oliver being at? These are questions that not just Liverpool fans, football fans want to ask about the officials. Paris, I got to be honest, Craig, I'd love Gabriel as a centre-half. I do love Gabriel as a centre-half. I think he gets no credit. He's twice the player Saliba is. He's one of those players that if he's in your team, you probably love him. If he's one of your players, you probably love him in his antics. But playing against them, he winds up something fierce, doesn't he? He's one of those players. But there's no doubt he's a good defender. And, you know, he gets stuck in, gives it all for his team. Yeah, I can't disagree, man. He's a good player. C Verge put Owen in his place. No, do explain. Do explain, Jonesy lad. Always up for Michael Owen being taken down a peg or two, so do explain. Ninmoy said, saw a stat a few days ago. Unai Emery in his first season had just 1 point less at this point of the season compared to year 5. Next Pep level Lego head has. Well, if he doesn't win the trophy this year, that's one trophy in 6 years. And look, we're not counting the community shields because they're not real. One trophy in 6 years with 700 odd million spent. That's at any other club, questions are being asked there about Lego head. But because he's the media darling, he seems to get away with a lot. Arsenal fans should grow a pair now and start saying, hang on a minute, this lad needs to start delivering us trophies. He undermined this year's achievement of winning the Prem. Yeah. Look, Michael Owen's paid for his opinions, as shit as they are and as dull as they are, but, you know, I'm glad somebody put up to him, because not one of them, no pundit, no media, no fan, nobody tipped Liverpool to win the Premier League. Look, BBC had 40 plus pundits and former players, and none of them, not one name, had us to win the league. So anybody that doesn't think this season has been a good achievement is blowing bullshit out their mouth, to be honest. Because, yeah, it's been a frustrating one that we went out of the Champions League and we lost the cup final. There's no denying that, but it's still been an extremely positive season, considering our cheap owners didn't back the manager in 2 transfer windows, and we've navigated our way through in a situation where Arsenal have shit the bed, City have, and we've stayed consistent and lost 1 game so far. So Owen can get back on his little Alex Ferguson pyjamas and do one with his opinions. Will, how are you, Will? Craig, does this mean that we are fully ruling out Isak this summer? Yes. Yes, mate. You can forget about him. When Newcastle are saying 150 million, it's done. Nobody's paying it. So yeah, I would say less than 1% chance we get Isak, in my opinion. Right, so during a post-match interview on Premier League Productions, Owen remarked that Liverpool's season was shaping up to be historic, but the cup exits had left a bitter taste despite their likely league triumph. Liverpool were poised to have a phenomenal... Let me read all this out. Liverpool were poised to have a phenomenal season. If they win the Premier League, it'll still be fantastic, but a little bit of a bitter taste because it was building into something special. Van Dijk said. Van Dijk, visibly unimpressed, quickly shut down that narrative. So you're suggesting this the season is not going to be special anymore. Look, he's right to defend what the club have done and what his teammates have done and what he as captain has done. There's probably some sense to what Owen has said, but again, time and place. If you're somebody that's supposed to be of the Liverpool family and somebody who thinks of himself as being part of it, then you big up Virgil and you make sure that in the public gaze, you big up Virgil, you big up the team, and you give them that confidence boost to go and finish this league title race. But, of course, Mr. Manchester United there, well, he showed his true colours already. And Ninmoy said, yep, no way you'd win the league, they said, and now they're mocking us for not winning the quadruple. Yeah, the standards change every season, mate. Like I keep saying, if Arsenal had have done what we did this year and won the Premier League in the way we're doing it, this would have been talked about as historic, remarkable, what an achievement. Arteta would have been basically fucking gold-leafed and put in front of the Emirates, and Arsenal fans would have been talking about him as the greatest thing since sliced bread, and what a historic season it was. But we do it, and it's a PGMOL title and all the other crap because they just have no sporting class about them. But who cares? Let them boil their piss, and when they don't win it next season, hopefully they start looking towards their own gaffer. Jacko, how are you, bro? So, talking about injuries, I've seen Feyenoord fans speak highly about Arne and his ability to keep players injury-free during this time there. I mentioned it a few times, mate, over the summer and throughout the season. They had a plus 90% of availability rate of first-team players because of the work that himself and Ruben Peters and other staff have done. And it was certainly one of the things, I think, that when Richard Hughes and Edwards were looking at a potential manager to come in, that was one of the attributes that was certainly in the plus column, understandably. So when I looked into it a little bit further and I started to understand or try to understand the relationship between Ruben Peters and Arne Slot, it was one very firmly built on trust. So, you know, what I was reading and seeing back was if Ruben Peters says X player can only train at this intensity for so long, then that was done. If this player can only come on and play half an hour, then Arne listened and it was done. And I think when you have that trust based off results and based off availability, yeah, you should nurture it. And it's definitely been one in the plus column for us this year because we haven't had catastrophic injury crises. You know, some things are unavoidable, but you never really are able to measure the ones that you don't get. How long do you reckon Arteta has left at Arsenal? I don't know. Like anything else, a manager's power at a club grows the longer they're there and the more, I guess, success they seem to have had. I think Arteta had benefited and has benefited a lot from re-establishing Arsenal back into the Champions League, and he has progressed them. There's no denying that, giving them an identity again. But at what point is that not enough anymore? At what point does the goalpost get shifted and trophies or a league title become the bare minimum? I guess that's an Arsenal question, but for me, I keep coming back to this. Would he last 6 years at Liverpool or Manchester United or Man City or Chelsea? No. Not with one FA Cup. Not a chance. But again, he seems to be very fondly thought of in the media because he's a Pep disciple and blah, blah. I think he's a very negative manager in the way he sets up his teams to play. I find Arsenal very boring to watch, in all honesty. And I think he's definitely a manager in the mould of don't lose rather than take the risk to win. But, you know, Arsenal fans may have a different view. Will Slot be under pressure next season given the success of this season? I would say to a certain extent yes, but pressure's a privilege. You know, as I think Billie Jean King said, pressure's a privilege and you earn the right to have pressure. And Arne will have earned the right to be expected to do well next season because of what he did this season, but that will also come by being backed in the market as well. Muckarab said Arsenal fans keep saying next season. Well, next season will come around soon enough. Muckarab said without Saka, Arsenal are too vanilla. Well, I already seen that there's talk that he's going to have his contract renewed this summer, and that's going to be very interesting if that's the case because the kid's on a loaded dough already. I think he's on about 300 if I'm not mistaken, and if he's going to be renewed already, this is what I warned about. Very quickly, his wages are going to start getting up to the £500,000 a week mark before he's 25, 26, and then Arsenal have a problem. So it'll be interesting to see how much of his wage budget stops them from maybe doing certain things in the Champions or in the transfer window. Infinite regression with Arsenal's title hope. Yep. See, the thing about Arsenal is, I think for them to win a title, they'll have to do what they've accused us of, which is maybe having a good season or a slightly better than average season when others haven't been at the standard. I'll never see them, like if Manchester City return back to their best next season and Liverpool continue on, I don't see them hanging with us or City, because not once have they put together a 90-point season. We've done multiple ones. Not once have Arsenal done a 90-point season. Now they keep using the term 89 points to give Arteta some credibility, but they never hit the 90-point mark. They were shiting on about doing it this season, and once again they've fallen short of it. So if Arsenal want to win a Premier League, I think they've got to break the 90-point barrier at some point to do it. Nin Moy said, if we're priced out of signing Isak, then I'd like us to go for Sesko. I really like him. I think I'd be okay with a Sesko. I don't know enough about Hugo EKITIKE to really say yes or no, but there must be something about him to have so many top clubs looking at him. Cunha is the one that seemingly is nobody's top of their list. You know, I've seen Cunha's name linked, but always as a secondary option for Arsenal or Liverpool. He doesn't seem to be the number one on anybody's shopping list. Saka going to be hit with a Haaland contract. That's it, and that will have a knock-on effect. And, you know, giving him that much money that young, I always felt was crazy. Like, there was no denying Saka's talent. But I think Arsenal have dug themselves a bit of a headache by giving him so much money so young. They all laughed at Haaland when he said those 4 words. Well, look how the season has unfolded at Arsenal. Yep. And we have stayed humble. Arne certainly has gone about his business and delivering us a league title. I tell you what though, I do feel a big sense of relief from last night's result, because if we hadn't won that game, I think the vultures would have been circling and people would have been talking about the wobble. So I'm glad we got the job done. I very much hope that we can back it up on Sunday against Fulham, and that's it then. You know, if you beat Fulham and Everton in the 1 week, 7 games to go. Realistically, you need 3 wins. I know people will say you need the extra point, but the goal difference will be the difference maker there. And of course, we play Arsenal as well. So for me, we're 4 wins away from winning the Premier League. We've 8 games to go, and that's worst case scenario if Arsenal keep winning. So I'm a very happy fan in that regard. But remember, we do have a poll question up that we're going to leave up for people to continue to vote on. Has the contract situation dampened your enjoyment of this season so far? Again, I do appreciate your feedback on this one. I'm not going to say, I was careful with my choosing of the words in dampened, because it's certainly not going to destroy the season. But for me anyway, it's always been like the elephant in the room. Jacko said, the funny thing from Arteta's stint is he won the FA Cup with most of Unai Emery's squad. They spent all that money rebuilding the team in his image. Yeah, I think they did Emery dirty. I think Emery's a better coach, and I think if they had have stuck with him and backed him, they would have won a bigger trophy by now. But I'm sure Aston Villa fans don't care about that, because, you know, they're in the Champions League quarter-final coming up next week, as are Arsenal. Let's see which manager goes further. I think, ironically, I think both are going to get knocked out, but let's wait and see. Pyro said, that's one thing that makes me happy. Our club has a well-strategized wage structure. Yeah, but there are pros and cons to that as well. I mean, we're in a situation now where that wage structure is causing us a bit of a headache, because Virgil and Mo haven't been extended yet. So, yeah, pros and cons, but ultimately, I think you're right. You reward the players who prove that they can do it with success. And success should be trophies and titles. And that's when, you build these players up into the money that Mo's deservedly earned. Harry said, thoughts on Pedro Porro? Some say similar to Trent in terms of being able to play inverted and wide. Certainly somebody who's spoken about fondly by a lot of people. I'm not going to kid anyone and say I've watched Pedro Porro, religiously. I don't know. I like the likes of Livramento at Newcastle as an option at right back, but known our club, I would say that €40 million Frimpong price tag is probably an appealing one to our owners. Cool. So our game against Arsenal is now the 11th of May, 4:30 on the Sunday, because it's been put on TV. So a little bit of a change there. Liverpool Arsenal now the 11th of May, 4:30. Presuming that'll be on Sky Sports. If FSG were to sell the club, would you be happy? I don't think I can answer that question because I don't know who the new owners are. Like, I could sit here and say, yes, I'd be happy, and then we could get somebody like the Glazers. So no, in that sense. The weird thing about this is, as vocal as I am about FSG, at this point in time, there's only one of my concerns that they can really alleviate, and that's the spending of transfer fees. So I'm probably good backing of the manager and the transfer markets away from shutting up about FSG, to be honest with you. Because what we have seen under them, and I will give them the credit for this, we haven't really been plundered as a club and rinsed out of all of our top talent. Those days seem to be pretty much gone. Trent's situation aside. We've won trophies. The stadium's been extended. They've brought us in 2 great managers. There are lots and lots of good things. But those good things are often undermined by the frustrations that we feel with the lack of spending in the market. And that, I think, after the length of time they've been at the club, is worrying. So I can't answer your question unless I know who the new owners were. Thing is, with FSG, Craig, they're great owners apart from during the windows. Look, they do a lot of things right. There's no denying, no getting away from that. The commercialisation that they've done and brought the club forward in that regard, the commercial partners they've brought in, all this other stuff. But we very rarely see that translate into transfer spending with regards to net spends. And that's the frustration for so many of us. Is, yes, we will acknowledge the good stuff, but doesn't mean they're free from criticism at all. And the unwillingness from some to criticise the indefensible stuff is shocking. I can see Everton beating Arsenal, said Dave. Well, I don't want to give away my predictions because I recorded them earlier on today and they're coming out at 10 a.m. But I think it'll be a close one, Dave, that game between Everton and Arsenal. It's the 12:30 game this weekend as well. Imagine what we could have achieved with proper backing. Yeah, could have been sitting on 3 or 4 Premier Leagues now. But they've always had excuses, right? So the Man City situation's always been the kind of their bogeyman, and the money Pep's had, and the investment there at City, and there's always excuses, but never accountability. I can see Arsenal getting someone sent off, Mary said. I just wonder how much focus Arsenal are really going to put in that game, because Real Madrid are coming to the Emirates, and that's their biggest game for me, because they ain't winning the league. So if I'm an Arsenal fan, I would have one eye on the midweek game. Mukarab said, Craig, do you think Saka gets injured due to being overplayed again this season? I really don't know, to be honest with you, mate. There's 8 league games to go, and whatever they have left in the Champions League. Hard to know if he's had enough of a rest period now that you can get through those 8-10 games without an injury, but I think we'll find out, because no surer thing than Arteta's going to lean on him. Nimnoy said Arsenal with Saka have backed themselves into position where they'll have to sell him or clear up wages to buy to compete. Well, this summer we're already seeing Arsenal being mentioned with Zubamendi, being mentioned with a striker coming in, 60-70 million there. We're speaking about them bringing in another centre half maybe, or another wide attacking player like Nico Williams. So yeah, weird, isn't it, that Arsenal Partey's going to depart this summer, and Arsenal board think, oh, we need to get another midfielder. That must be nice when a position leaves your club and the club go, oh, we need to fill that position. Doesn't happen a lot for us. Players depart the clubs and we go, that'd be grand. We'll be grand. Don't need to worry about that. Sure, you know, we'll address that down the line. And then 2 years later, we still haven't addressed it. Yeah, that's what we do. They said they're going to spend big. Yeah, and I've seen it in lots of media reports as well, Mary, that wouldn't be surprised to see them spend 150 million, was a couple of reports I'd seen. David said the unnamed player, 29 from Barnet area, is leaving, yeah. And that is a situation that they have not gotten anywhere near enough stick from, for my liking, because speaking with journalists behind the scenes, there's always mumblings about the respect they've lost for Arsenal for playing him, but nobody ever puts their balls on the line and talks about it publicly. Mark said they're still waiting for that Genie replacement too. Yep. And the Matip replacement, the Thiago replacement. I mean, we probably got the Fabinho replacement in Gravenberch, but what about our war chest of 250 million? I've always said, Tanya, I don't think that's the way Liverpool do transfer business. I don't think that the managers are told, here's a set amount of money, off you pop. I think it's a case-by-case basis where they go down with their list, they say, is he achievable? Is it realistic wage-wise? Is there value in it? And do we need it? And if all these things align, then they go for that 30 million quid player and move on. I heard City want Kimmich and a rumour to get Sané back. Well, Kimmich's just signed a new deal at Bayern Munich, so he's going nowhere. That was agreed and signed off on. And with regards to Sané, again, the talk that seems to be coming from Germany is that the want and desire there for Bayern and him is for him to remain at Bayern, but I don't know. For me, City shouldn't have any of these headaches because they should be facing massive points deductions and expulsion from European football for my liking. But again, we're still waiting for the administration panel or whatever the hell they're called to give us the outcome of that situation. I don't think we've ever replaced Firmino, said Mukrab. I miss Thiago, the flair that guy had, said Joshua. I doubt City will get charged. They've already been charged. This is something that I keep bringing up. The charges are already laid at City. This is just a matter of proving them and if they can get away with it. And look, I do expect they probably will get away with some of them. But some of these charges are so clear-cut that I don't think there's a world that they don't get charged with some of them. And that's when the Premier League have created a headache for themselves, because they've already set a precedent for points deductions for certain breaches. So this is why it gets interesting. But what will happen is, whatever the ruling is, whatever side loses, there's going to be an appeal, and that appeal will drag it on probably until the start of next season. This is the bullshit that we all have to deal with. 7 years of this crap because of the Premier League's slow-paced nature, while they keep mopping up trophies and people become desensitised to City, the idea of City being this nouveau riche club. Now they start to feel like a more established club. And this is part of the plan. This is part of the problem with dragging these situations out, is people get desensitised to it. Would I be happy with Mark Gay? I would be, but again, journalists I've spoken with have told me that Liverpool's concerns with Mark Gay was that he wasn't dominant enough aerially and wasn't big enough in that regard to play centre-back for us. If you look at the physicality and the aerial duel success rate of a Van Dijk and Canade, that's apparently one of the metrics that let Marquez score down when Liverpool were looking at him. So he does have 1 year to go, I think, with Crystal Palace at the end of this season. It'll be interesting to see if he signs a new deal or if they cash in and he moves on to, well, Newcastle, Liverpool or somewhere. Para said, I will stand on a hill of saying Thiago is the most gifted and technically capable footballer the league has seen. Mate, the things that man could do with a football was ridiculous. He was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I'll always be happy he played for Liverpool, but I'll always feel a little bit like, God, I wouldn't have minded watching him a bit more. Right, ladies and gents, I am going to record the news update video because I have a few news stories that have come into me while we've been on that I'm going to cover. That'll be out before 11:15. We'll also have the Premier League predictions video coming out. That's recorded. That'll be coming out tomorrow morning at about 10 a.m. I will see you tomorrow for a late night agenda. I'll be taking Saturday as my day off live streaming this week. So if you can, before you head off, drop a like for me on the stream. Thank you to everyone that joined us again. Appreciate your support. Have a wonderful Thursday, and I will catch up with you guys tomorrow, where I'm sure we'll have more transfer speculation and we'll look ahead to the game against Fulham this weekend. We'll talk then. Much love. Bye-bye.